Good evening. Sorry, that was terrible. Let's get into the serious stuff. Aston Villa have appointed Unai Emery as manager. We're going to take a look at the tactics that he's employed with Villarreal this season in 10 out of the 11 games in La Liga and see how it fits into Aston Villa. Me personally, I think it kind of fits, and I do think it is a really good appointment for Aston Villa. I think Aston Villa fans will enjoy this more than maybe a Sean Dyche 4-4-2. They do often play with a low block or a mid block, however, they don't just punt it into the channels. It's not long ball, it's not hoof ball. They like to play through the thirds. Their midfield is full of technical players. I think Aston Villa have a few that Unai Emery will like to get hold of and get this team back up into the top half of the table. All right, guys, let's get into it. There is no tactic downloads. They're only available for my Patreon. However, if you're not going to be a Patreon, links to that down in the description if you do. However, if you don't, I am going to go through each team instruction, player instructions, and the reasons why I've picked those roles for this tactic. We're going to look at a few stats, a few heat maps as well, just to explain for you Aston Villa fans how your Aston Villa side may start to develop over the next few days, weeks, and months. All right, guys, let's get into today's video. Now, generally, Villarreal have played a 4-4-2 10 out of 11 times this season. I think the other one was a 4-2-3-1. However, primarily this season it has been a 4-4-2, and I think something that may suit Aston Villa this season. Defensively, they'll either sit in a low block or a mid block, and that will depend on the opponents they're playing. I imagine because Aston Villa is sort of like maybe a mid-tier club, they will look at maybe playing a low block against the big boys and away from home, and then especially when they're at home, I think the fans will definitely expect to play more of a mid block. Now, just because it's a low block, it doesn't mean that the team is automatically then going to play direct. It's quick transitions. That's not the case. They are full of technical players at Villarreal in the midfield, all very, very technical. You're looking at players like Dani Pereiro. They've got Francis Coquelin. Capuy, not so much. Lo Celso, Jeremy Pino, all fantastic players that want to get on the ball and dictate the play. So it's not a case of getting the ball and then hoofing it long. It's can we get the ball down and play. Their possession stats are around 50%, so they're not exactly a low block and then quite counter-attacking indirect. They like to keep the ball when they do have it and progress the ball slowly, steadily up the pitch. So it looks like a 4-4-2. It often sort of like sits as a 4-2-2-2. Not the Ralph Rangnick kind of very two attacking midfielders coming in. However, the two central midfielders do kind of sit in front and protect that little bit, as we do have one of the fullbacks getting on quite high and allowing the wider players to be the attacking outlets as well. The two central midfielders sit, support, recycle, win the ball back. And Dani Pereiro at Villarreal this season dictating from deep. He is in his early 30s now, okay, but he is still very, very good technically. Okay, so the tactic looks like this. We're going to play with a sweeper keeper on defend, no player instructions. I've put a sweeper keeper in because I do want him to play out from the back. Villarreal actually ranked, I think, second or third in terms of launches from the goalkeeper this season. So basically, when he does get the ball, it's only 24% of the time he's launching the ball. So they do like to play out from the back rather than launch it long. At right back, they kind of have a steady Eddie. There is a veteran that I'm kind of thinking, is it Gaspar? Potentially. They've also got Juan Foyth there, who is a little bit of a centre-half / right back. So we're interested to see what they do on this side. In particular because he'll know that Matty Cash would be very good at the left fullback role. The left fullback is very different to the right fullback at Villarreal. So it'll be interesting to see what they do here. I wouldn't be surprised if someone like Callum Chambers got a little bit of a run at right back, who's more defensively sound. Centre halves, they go with Albiol and Pau Torres. Very strong structure they've had there over the last few seasons. In particular, Albiol, a little bit older now. A bit of a, you could even put that as a no-nonsense centre-half. Tell you what, let's do that. Let's put that as a no-nonsense centre-half. Very basic, very simple in what he does. Pau Torres, on the other hand, a little bit different. If we just put up his heat map, he does like to get into wide, not attacking areas, but he does like to get into wide areas, and he does like to dribble. So we've got ball-playing defender on defend, dribble more, stay wider. I was going to put that on stopper, and I've just decided not to. However, that is maybe something we could tweak during the season, see how it works in FM. And on the left-hand side, they had, is it what's he called? This guy, anyway. Now at Brighton, they have him last season at Villarreal at left-back. He's now gone, and they are now playing Pedroza, who is a very attacking fullback as well. So I think that would suit Aston Villa with Lucas Digne on that left-hand side. He will really suit that role. I suppose if Lucas Digne is out injured, they could then swap it and Matty Cash could do it. So they've got options there to change the structure to the other side, as in having the attacking fullback at right back. Into the middle of midfield, it is a deep midfield. Number one, the Capoue Coquelin role. We're going to look at Kamara, just being a ball-winning midfielder on support, alongside John McGinn, who would be playing the Danny Pereira role, where basically he's just sat, getting the ball off the back four, releasing the wide players, getting it into the striker's feet, clipping channels as well, for you imagine, for Watkins to run. And I think obviously McGinn would do that very well. He does like to get around the park a little bit. It's going to be a little bit more of a structured role, I would imagine, from John McGinn. However, he has got the technical qualities to do it. On the left-hand side, it is the Lo Celso role. They also play a player called Alex Buena, I think, an inverted winger. I think Leon Bailey would suit that really well. They've also got the opportunity of playing, obviously, Philip Coutinho out on the left-hand side. However, he may not work well in this structure. He does like them to get quite narrow, quite rigid, and getting that narrow four in. I'm not quite sure how Philip Coutinho will do without the ball. They may also, even in bigger games, they may also look at even playing a John McGinn out there. Francis Coquelin has done that out times for Villarreal. They may even look at Jacob Ramsey out on that left-hand side as well, just to make sure that they have a little bit more defensively. So they have often moved central midfielders into those wide areas. And because of the amount of central midfielders Aston Villa currently have, I've got McGinn, Kamara. There's also Dendoncker, Nakamba, Douglas Luiz, Ramsey and Sanson all can play in central midfield. They may often look at one of these wide areas being taken up by a central midfielder. On the right-hand side, they do play Jeffrey Pino, who is a fantastic young talent at Villarreal. He is left-footed. However, if we just look at his heat map very quickly, he stays very, very wide. So I think Buendia may get more of a run out. He's been so in and out of the team. However, Unai Emery does like technical players, and I think Buendia would suit his style in this 4-4-2 more so than a Philip Coutinho, because it might work a little bit defensively better having a Buendia though rather than a Coutinho. Up front, they do literally play one dropping off. Moreno has been in and out injured, but he likes to roam and roam around the pitch. The other side is Watkins. I think he will do very well in this system. They do like to counter. They do often still hit channels occasionally. He likes to play on the break. He does like his strikers. I think it's a dude called Jackson. There you go. Nicholas Jackson. Very kind of similar to a Watkins, where he's quite strong, quite quick. I think he would fit quite well. They also have at Villarreal Samuel Chukwueze, who does come off the bench a lot, but once again, kind of a strong, athletic, wide forward, and I think that's similar to what Ollie Watkins is, but I think he will thrive under that. So we're putting him as a pressing forward on attack, and with his player instruction as well of moving into channels, getting forward whenever possible, curls the ball and cuts in for the wings. I think having him cutting in onto his right, he's got a lot of goals for Aston Villa. I think that will suit him. And then Danny Ings just floating around him, supporting the player, linking the player. Danny Ings, he's very good technically, I think, so he would suit that role pretty well, the Gerard Moreno role at Villarreal. And then we've obviously got Cameron Archer. I think if they're going to go down the route of 4-4-2, you could see Aston Villa spending a little bit of money in January, in particular because Danny Ings can't stay fit, and the other option is Cameron Archer. On certain points last season, he did play a little bit of a 4-1-4-1. He may go down that route. He may even choose to go down that route now because of the amount of central midfielders that they currently have at Aston Villa. However, I think he would like the idea of getting Ings and Watkins on the pitch at the same time. I think Danny Ings up front by himself would be quite isolated, and I think Watkins would maybe do a little bit better with a partner up there to link play and give him the option to maybe roam into those wide areas to pick up and receive the ball. Okay, that is the team. We're going for cautious mentality because when we do have it, we want to take less risks. We want to keep the ball. We want to play the simple passes. We want to play through the defence, through their lines as best as we can, but we want to do it safely. Fairly narrow. As I said, it's a 4-2-2. He does like his wingers to come in particular. I think that will help us in transitions as well. When we do lose the ball, because we're playing quite narrow, it'll mean that we are a little bit better defensively in those transitions. We won't hopefully get counter-attacked as much. Standard passing directness, slightly higher tempo. That's questionable. I've not been able to look at any highlights for this tactic, so I'm just putting it on to slightly higher. However, if you move it on to maybe slightly lower, you'll probably see you keep possession a little bit better. Time wasting sometimes. Hit crosses early. We're doing that because of the players that Aston Villa have in the penalty box. Danny Ings, Watkins will thrive off crosses. Villarreal strikers exactly the same, so we're asking our wingers to cross the ball as early as possible. Run at the defence is on. Remember, we've got players like Leon Bailey. They have Jeffrey Pino of Villarreal. Lo Celso, the wide players that we spoke about, those wide, Chukwueze and Jackson, all very good, very physical, very direct. So we'll have that on as well. Be more disciplined because we want to get that bank of four in, them two lines, them 4-4-2, mid block, low block. We want to see that as best we possibly can. In transition, we're asking the goalkeeper to roll it out like we spoke about. Slow the pace down as well. We're not expecting him to distribute it quickly. Slow it down, get the shape and play. Counter-attack, I think when they do win it and the option is there, I think they do go long, they do hit the channels, and when you've got a Watkins up there as well, it does make sense to use that on occasions. Counter-press, no, mainly because there's no statistics that back up a counter-press for this. He does like to drop off. Their pressures in the final third are very, very low, so it makes sense not to have that on. Out of possession, there you go, mid-block or even a low block, depending on who you're playing. Trigger press less often. There isn't, even in the mid-third and the defensive third, the pressures aren't amazing. They're either low-end, mid-table, or right down near the bottom. So I think what Emery is trying to create at Villarreal is a very tight, structured unit, and they try and cut out passing lines, so there'll be a lot of interceptions rather than tackles, rather than pressures. And then from that, they'll then play through the thirds. I'm asking also the defensive line to drop off, trapping outside so we stay nice and narrow, nice and compact, and we're inviting crosses. Villarreal, I think, have conceded the second most amount of crosses in La Liga this season. Pau Torres very tall. Albiol likes a challenge in the air as well. Very good defensively, those two. So I imagine having invite crosses on is something that they would have. All right, guys, 4-4-2 going forward for Aston Villa, I think. Be interested to see how Unai Emery gets on over the next few weeks. And I think Unai Emery's first game as manager Aston Villa is against Manchester United. So that will be a cracker to watch this weekend. All right, guys, take care. Thanks for watching. See you later.